Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're listening to Scorned Love Kills. This is the Oprah affair.
This is the true story of a stay-at-home dad, his high-powered corporate wife, and the 19-year-old au pair living in their home. It seems like a perfect household, but behind closed doors lurks a dangerous fantasy of control and desire.
They had to listen to him. They had to respond to him. He was their boss.
What a forbidden affair.
Oh, it was like this perfect recipe for him to indulge in his fantasy.
Now he's got this young girl in his thrall.
Leads to a horrifically violent murder.
If anybody had realized what was going on inside that household, I'm sure they could have figured out that it was all about to explode.
Beware, extreme passion can lead to shocking consequences. It's the fall of 2006. An hour outside of Detroit, the affluent suburb of Washington. Ideal place for an ambitious couple to raise a family. A couple like Stephen and Tara Grant.
Stephen and Tara are a power couple. They complemented each other well.
At 34 years old, Tara possesses the same magnetic glow she's always had.
Tara Grant, from the time she was a little girl, would be easily described as incredibly cute. She had this mess of curly hair that framed her face and a gigantic smile that everybody just knew and could light up a room.
It was this vibrant presence that attracted the eye of her husband, Stephen Grant.
Stephen Grant was a pretty good looking guy. He's 6 footish, brown hair. He kept pretty fit, so he caught some attention for being an attractive guy. Stephen seemed to be really outspoken and fun.
He was a nice guy. He seemed like he fit in well with the community.
To everyone in the neighborhood, Tara and Stephen make a good, if somewhat untraditional match. The success-minded Tara has landed a senior position at a large engineering firm.
Tara was absolutely the breadwinner of the family. I think at the time, Stephen was making 5,000, 6,000, no more than 10,000 a year, and Tara was making at least 10 times that.
And Stephen's carved out a complimentary role as a stay-at-home dad for their 2 kids, occasionally working at his father's tool and die shop.
All appearances from him were that he enjoyed his role as a Mr. Mom.
Stephen always kept like the same even keel about himself.
From outside appearances, it's an ideal life. But beneath the public veneer of marital bliss, all is not well in the Grant home. As Tara's career continues to take off, deep-seated resentment begins to boil under the surface, waiting to spill over.
I think regardless of what kind of front Stephen put on, he was clearly feeling emasculated behind the doors of his home.
I think that maybe her having such a great career maybe didn't sit so well with him.
What you had with Stephen and Tara was a traditional marriage turned on its head. She was the breadwinner. She was the person controlling all the strings in the relationship. It takes a very secure man to buy into the Mr. Mom persona. But in the case of Stephen, he really felt emasculated.
There's an answer to Stephen's needs. The easiest way to have more authority of his own is to become somebody's boss.
Stephen wanted help with the children, even though he didn't have much of a full-time job. He asked Tara to agree to allow for him to get an au pair in the house.
An au pair is usually a girl who lives with the family and takes care of the children and becomes almost a part of the family herself in many cases.
I don't know if every au pair that comes to America looks like these women did, but the ones in the Grant household were described uniformly as gorgeous.
In order for Stephen to hire an au pair, they would have to be very attractive, or he wouldn't even look at them.
Now Stephen's previously stifling home life becomes an exciting, sexually charged world, and one that he's in total control of.
Stephen was hiring women, whether it was true or not. They got him to feel like he was a stud. They had to listen to him. They had to respond to him. He was their boss.
Stephen had a tendency to tell friends and anybody who would listen that these young women were just infatuated by him. He's worldly and handsome, and they all just loved him, or so he thought.
One time, this au pair was up in her bedroom, and he was in the backyard. And I remember him telling me that he was standing by a tree, and he looked up, and one of his au pairs were getting undressed. And he felt that they were doing that for him. And I was like, well, what did you do? And he goes, well, I sat there and watched her.
When someone has a sexual fantasy going on in their head, it's amazing how they actually develop what we call a subtext. And so when he sees an au pair through the bedroom and he interprets that as she's exposing herself to me, she knows I'm watching, she likes it, I like it, she wants me.
For Stephen, the line between fantasy and reality begins to blur. And with every new au pair, Stephen pushes the boundaries even further.
Stephen would tell people that the au pairs were all kind of going after him, but it was later found out that the opposite was taking place. There was a hole found in their closet wall which joined the au pair's bedroom, and he could have been using that to peek through to watch the au pairs dress and undress. One of the au pairs later said that she felt she would hear things from behind the wall. Felt kind of weird about that.
The voyeur loves the idea of watching somebody who doesn't know they're being watched. And there's a sexual nature to it. And there's really power, right? It is almost like a godly complex. I'm able to see everything, and no one's able to see that I'm watching them.
In Stephen's au pair fantasy world, he's dominant and powerful. But in his own marriage, he can never get the upper hand.
Tara worked for a global engineering group, and she was often called overseas.
With Tara focusing on her career and family, she has little time or interest in satisfying Stephen.
She was excellent and successful and climbing the organization in her career. Well, she didn't really have to think about the failures of her marriage at home.
Tara's constant absence shows Stephen just how little he's needed or desired.
Stephen gave me the impression that he wasn't real happy with Tara not being at home all the time. She was gone a lot with her job.
So, given his personality, he would need to find a different situation to help him experience himself differently. And the way that he chose to do that was by finding another woman.
Fantasizing about the au pairs is no longer enough for Stephen, but he thinks he knows a woman who can give him what he wants. He emails an ex-girlfriend that he's kept in touch with through the years, but this time, he's not interested in just catching up.
Stephen had been contacting an ex-girlfriend once a year for the 10 years after they had been broken up. But he kind of ramped that up in January of 2007. The emails became more sexual in nature.
He was a little over the line flirtatious. The woman was a nurse, and he said things such as, if you need to practice a sponge bath, you've got me to turn to.
Those emails seemed to me to be the type of email that a high school student would write. Not even a college student, a high school student.
But Stephen's flirtatious advances fall flat, and the sexually suggestive exchanges with his ex just fizzle out.
And they never ultimately did meet. I believe maybe he was trying to test the waters.
Stephen never pursues the affair with his ex-girlfriend. But in January of 2007, Stephen stumbles upon something that makes his flirtation pale in comparison. He becomes obsessed with the suspicion that Tara is cheating on him.
There was one evening when Stephen had sort of snooped on the home computer and found this email. There was an email exchange between Tara and one of her old flames.
It seems that Stephen started to believe that his wife was going to either leave the relationship or at least start having affairs outside of the marriage. I think, again, it was very emasculating.
The more Stephen reads, the darker his thoughts become.
I mean, just seeing that she had contact with other men. If he was feeling emasculated, if he would feel insecure and threatened by any man she might have been having contact with.
Though the emails contain no proof, they're enough to ignite Stephen's suspicions and send his confidence into a tailspin.
Ultimately, with Steve, it's about the power and control.
When you find out that your spouse is doing something behind your back, it very well could start to push you over the edge because it's blatant proof that you cannot control this other person.
But he's got the perfect way to tip the scale back in his favor. And he's got the perfect girl to help him do it. In the winter of 2007, Grant begins to obsess over the family's latest affair, a German 19-year-old named Verena.
Verena is, in a word, just hot. She's a hot 19-year-old German girl living in their home. She's blonde. She's quirky and friendly and bubbly. She's got a great smile.
She was attractive and was very personable.
It was like this perfect recipe for him to indulge in his fantasy.
Stephen has been eyeing the au pairs for years, but now he has an excuse to do more than just look. Soon after she begins working for the Grants, Stephen makes a very calculated move. He asks Verena to come and read the emails his wife has been writing to another man. The young au pair can tell the correspondence is clearly a private exchange, but she doesn't know what to say, just as Stephen intended.
The idea that Steve is discovering these emails in front of Verena is part of the psychological seduction.
He wanted to be able to paint Tara as the bad person in the relationship. He wanted to show Verena that he was a loving man who was scorned.
Little does the teenage au pair know, Stephen Grant has spent years desiring and manipulating pretty young women, and she's his next target. It's January 2007. While wife and mother Tara Grant is away on business, stay-at-home dad Stephen Grant becomes obsessed with the suspicion that Tara is cheating on him. And now he set his sights on the family's latest au pair, 19-year-old blonde, beautiful Verena, so he can feel like the real man of the house.
Verena hadn't been there that long. She'd only been there a few months. Verena was incredibly impressionable.
For Stephen, the innocent Verena is the perfect antidote to his feelings of inadequacy. He wants the young au pair, and he's determined to do anything to get her.
So it sounds like once Stephen had sexualized Verena, this was something he planned to carry out.
Stephen has almost complete access to the young girl working at his home, and he uses it to his advantage.
Stephen courted Verena in the way that any 14-year-old boy would begin to court. He would look for moments where they could have an extra long stare.
He talked a lot about her, how much he liked her.
Stephen is very good at seducing. He knows how to make that flirtatious connection. He knows how to make women feel sexy and important.
Eventually, the compliments became more overt, and he started actively telling her that he thought she was sexy.
At first, the au pair laughs off Stephen's advances, taking it all as silly flirtation. But Stephen doesn't let up. Whenever Verena goes out, Stephen sends suggestive texts to keep up his courtship.
One of the text messages he was sending to Verena is that he had an itch that needed to be scratched. And then later on, he would make allusions to the itch. And obviously, the itch was sex.
I believe that Steve was obsessed with her.
But as things heat up between Stephen and Verena, his relationship with his wife Tara is rapidly deteriorating. She's away on business during the week, and weekends home are filled with bickering and accusations.
Stephen and Tara's relationship started to crumble fast. I believe Tara was starting to have second thoughts and had for many years discovered that the man she thought she was marrying wasn't him.
It seems as winter 2007 is going on, Stephen is feeling more and more marginalized in the relationship.
For the embittered Stephen, already paranoid his wife might be having an affair, the constant conflict only adds fuel to the fire.
Clearly, Stephen was not feeling the way he wanted to feel in his marriage. He was getting to feel unnoticed, ignored. Stephen, to survive, he needed to counterbalance those uncomfortable feelings.
And Stephen's most powerful distraction, Verena, is right in front of him. His intentions become clear. By late January of 2007, Stephen is no longer satisfied with simple flirtations.
He had gone past any kind of German au pair.
One night while the two are sitting on the couch, he makes a physically suggestive move and offers Verena a foot massage.
Stephen is, again, very wise in how he goes about the whole seduction process. And contact is contact, right? So he has kind of an innocent sexuality where he's rubbing her feet, but he's making her feel good. And he's basically lowering her defenses.
Stephen lets the intimate contact build into a romantic moment. He reaches in to kiss Verena. The young au pair doesn't pull away.
That first kiss between Verena and Steve was really the point of no return. This was the final test. This is her last chance to push him away. She doesn't do it. And now he feels completely validated in his fantasy.
Rita said she'd been really smitten with him and that she believed him when he said he had nothing to do with Tara's disappearance. All of those things were brought together to paint a picture of a man who was unhinged.
At the close of the trial, Stephen Grant is found guilty of second-degree murder. But while justice is served, the scars of Stephen's crime remain.
Tara deserved a better life, and she was working really hard to make sure that she got one, not just for herself, but for her 2 kids. But she was 34 years old, and she had already accomplished so much and was a loving mother. So she had a lot more time left that was stolen from her.